Welcome to something that I have never done before on this channel or just ever. I've always wanted to, but I've never gotten around to doing any sort of ranking or tier list. I thoroughly enjoy watching other people on YouTube, other content creators, do these tier list challenges, if you would. And even if I don't really know what fully their ranking, or if I don't even have an opinion fully myself, I like watching others formulate their opinion live on video for an audience. And so I wanted to do that today. I wanted to do something book related, wanted to do something fantasy related, and so this is what I decided. We're going to today rank Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. So for those of you that don't know, the Cosmere is a fictional universe that author Brandon Sanderson created for many of his books to reside in. They are different books and different series and different characters. However, they all are in the same universe. They have interconnected worlds. Very rarely is this explicit in any of the novels. In fact, if you are not some kind of like hardcore fan, you can just read these casually, these books from the different series, and just cherry pick, and this will never bother you. You won't even probably know much about it. However, if you are an uber fantasy Sanderson nerd like myself, then Sanderson gives us some Easter eggs and various pieces of interconnected tissues to be able to look for as we're reading different books in the various series that are in the Cosmere. In fact, there is one character in particular that is a world hopper that shows up time and time again in many of the Cosmere books. Sometimes by the same name, sometimes by different names, always the same personality, and he's a fan favorite of mine as well. I'm not gonna give many or any spoilers here, but just so that you know, that is what the Cosmere is. Not every book that Sanderson has written is in the Cosmere. Many of them are. I've got, I think, 13 of them here in this tier list that we're going to put here, all the way from D at the lowest, all the way up to S being the most superb of books, of novels in the Cosmere. I've read all of these on this list except Warbreaker, so I won't rate that right now. I don't know why I haven't read Warbreaker. It's one of his earlier novels that he wrote in the Cosmere, but I've never gotten around to it. And then it's also missing, I see White Sands is a graphic novel series that is ongoing. I think there's 3 volumes so far. That's also not included here, and there's a few short stories that aren't included here, but there are 2, so I'll talk about them as we go. I haven't pre-planned this, so this is going to be pretty much off the cuff and from memory and my current feelings on any particular book. One last thing, and then we'll get to it. You are going to have a different opinion. If you are steep into the Sanderson universe, Cosmere, then you're going to have a different opinion. Please, that's where the comments reign supreme. Let me know where I went wrong, where I went right, where you would do something different, and we can dialogue about that in the comments. I'll respond to every single one as long as I possibly can. So let's do that after you finish this video. So we're starting off here with one that's not really fair. It is originally titled Mistborn, then The Final Empire, as it became a series. This was my first entry into the Cosmere and my first entry to Brandon Sanderson. So there's a lot of fondness that I have for this story. The characters are exceptional. It's some kind of grand heist, but set in a kind of post-apocalyptic magical world. I'm not going to explain each of the books here. I just need to explain kind of my thought process behind this. I do think this is one of the best of the best. However, it's not Sanderson's like best writing. He is building out a magic system, and it takes a long time to do that. He's introducing us to all of these characters. The series in many ways does get better, but this one is one of the best. I feel like I'm going to end up putting all of these in S or A just because I have a problem here. That's not going to be the case. I'm going to be fair here. In the Cosmere, so it's not D is the worst book of all time. It's probably going to be not good or not the best in this Cosmere thing. You can tell that this is the first time I've ever done this before. I'm going to put Mistborn, The Final Empire, solidly in the A category. It is among the best. It might work its way up to S just depending on how the rest of this goes. But I love The Final Empire. It's a good setup to the worlds but so many cooler things happen as the series progresses. The Well of Ascension is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, the first Mistborn trilogy. We'll get to that. And it is remarkable. It might even be better than the Final Empire. It's an evolution to the story, of course. It's an evolution to the characters, both to Vin and Elend, some of the main characters. It starts to give us the journey of Spooks, but not the finale there, as well as Sazed, Sazed, other characters as well, of course. This is one of my favorite. I think it takes what Mistborn: The Final Empire does, and it expands on it, has a little bit more freedom. Sanderson doesn't give us fluff here. It's kind of like a hold your breath until the very end type of novel, because the darkness is vanquished in the first book. So what does that leave for the second? Well, it leaves a world unraveling, and our heroes have to continue being heroes and save the world and put it back together. You already see where I'm hovering. Yeah, it's among the best in my opinion. It's up there in the S category. We're starting with I think my favorite series in the Cosmere. By the way, this is down here is the bank where I'm getting these from, and they are generally how I first read them. So I think I read Final Empire back in 2014 for the very first time, and then I kind of just read through the whole series. So more or less, this is how I came in touch with the series, with the books. And so we're gonna start strong, of course. But Mistborn will go A, we'll go Well of Ascension and S. Let's move to Hero of Ages. Hero of Ages is the finale to the series, the finale to these characters. We've got our characters fully realized here, and we've got Spooks becoming who he becomes, and just becomes one of my favorite character developments and progressions in any fantasy novel, any novel that I've ever read. And the ending is so brutal and so beautiful. It's brutal. It really is. It is so sad. And I could just sit here and cry thinking about it. But no series can be concluded in such a powerful way for all of our characters. Every single character's conclusion is perfect. Sanderson, you did work here. You did work here. I will say that to get us to that point, the book does drag a little bit. Ending perfect, but to get there, it's a trudge. There's a lot that's going on, and I completely understand that. We've got it starts great, it starts strong, it starts beautiful, slows us down throughout, but brings it back at the end in an epic conclusion. So I don't put it as high as Well of Ascension. I'm gonna put it here also in the A category, and I think that I'm going to drop it for, is it the weakest of the trilogy? It's the best writing of the trilogy, and we see the characters become fully who they are. I'm gonna put it here for now. So it's ahead of Final Empire. So that's my order for now of the original trilogy. All right, you know what? I'm gonna go a little bit out of order here because I saw that we've got Mistborn: Secret History over here. This is a short story. I believe it's considered a short story, and it falls kind of in line between Mistborn Era 1 and Mistborn Era 2. It's actually a contemporary of some of the novels up here. It follows Kazmir. I'm not going to give much away, but Kazmir following moments after his death and what takes place after that. It's not great. It's not near what these three books are, but it's not trying to be. It's trying to be a different thing altogether, and Sanderson does that well. It really is like somewhat of a fan service, giving us little highlights here and there, filling in a little bit of the blanks that we wouldn't maybe have otherwise, giving us some characterization where we wouldn't have characterization otherwise, and giving us a little bit more time with the beloved character, Kazmir. And so I guess I did give away spoilers here. I'm terribly sorry for that. But if you're watching this video, I'll try to keep it safe from here on out. That being said, it's not a bad book. It's not a great book. Not a lot happens really that is world shifting that doesn't already happen in the other books, or universe shifting in the sense of the Cosmere. So we're going to place it actually fairly low. I think on Goodreads I gave it a 3.5, which means it was good and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a 4 and it wasn't a 5-star. I'm gonna put it in the C category. It's not D in the sense of it's one of the worst pieces here, but it is solid in the C category. Which takes us to the Alloy of Law. So this trilogy up here that we started with is Mistborn Era 1. Here is Mistborn Era 2, and I believe there's one more book coming out, isn't there? There is. There's going to be a fourth and final book in the second era, and then there's going to be a third era later, which I believe, is that the one we're going like into the future? Because here is kind of like a medieval past. Here is like a Western, only a few centuries ago, whatever. And then a third Mistborn series that hasn't started yet, or era. I think that's future. I know they're going there eventually. Anyways, Alloy of Law starts a new series with new characters that is in the same world, specific world, not only universe as the Cosmere, but world as the original Mistborn. But the characters that we know and love for the most part are long gone. Now we've got new characters. We've got Wax, Lord Waxilium, and we've got his partner in crime, Wayne. We've got an evolution of allomancy and all of those magic systems that were built out in the original trilogy. The characters here are a lot of fun, but this series as a whole does not live up to the beauty that is the original Mistborn series. In fact, I don't even think this is the strongest book out of the 3 that have been released so far. So I'm also going to put it into the C category for now, but I am going to put it above Secret History because there is a little bit more build out there. I did a reread of this fairly recently, so it's still fresh on my mind. Good book, not great book when it comes to Sanderson. Supersedes all other of the books from the normies, but when it comes to Sanderson's work, I'll put it here at the top of the C category for now. Shadows of Self is our next book that we're working with. This is the second of the Wax and Wayne series, Mistborn Era 2. And I think that this one is the strongest one so far in this series, in the second era, excuse me. Some new characters are introduced. Sanderson does some cool little twists and turns with the narrative that I didn't expect. And we get more good relationship building between the two main characters, Wax and Wayne, and their ladies. Evolution of the magic system a little bit more. And we've got some more ties here in this book that are revealed to the original trilogy, which I love throwbacks of that nature. Still wouldn't put it up there with the best, which I've got an S and A category. So I'll put Shadows of Self, the first entry, into the B category, which leaves us with the Bands of Mourning, which is the third and final so far. There's going to be 4 in Mistborn Era 2. This was my least favorite of this second era so far. I just felt lost. That being said, I have only read it once, and I think I've read the other 2 twice so far. I'm not entirely sure about Shadows of Self. Bands of Mourning, I know that I've only read this once. I need to read it again and give it just another experience. I felt lost. I felt like I wasn't being able to follow along as much. I really just pressed through to read it. It's still good, but I really didn't enjoy it as much as any of these books so far, honestly. Does it fall in the D category, or is it just a really low C? That's where I'm going to have to figure this out. And here's the thing. I feel like if I were to reread this series so far, that maybe this would go up some. Maybe all 3 of them would go up. Although, like I said, I've read Alloy of Law just recently again. But for now, I've got to leave this a low C or my first D. People are probably going to disagree with me, but for now, I'm going to place that as my first D. Again, does not mean that that is a bad book, but it does mean that it's the lower tiered Sanderson novel. It's not an F. It's not an F. It's a D. A D still gets degrees. That's what I tell my students. D's still get degrees, and so does Bands of Mourning. Moving on. I don't know how this book ended up here. Let us go ahead and do Edge Dancer, which I believe this is. Edge Dancer and Mistborn Secret History and some other short stories were included in Arcanum Unbounded, and it was a collection of short stories in the Cosmere. Edge Dancer introduces us actually to a character named Lift that becomes a big part of the Cosmere, specifically of the Stormlight Archives, which we're about to go into. I love Lift. Some people find her annoying, and I do too, but that is her character, and that is what makes her so great. I love this story. I love her abilities. Oh man, where do I put Edge Dancer? I love Lift. It's definitely above Shadows of Self, but it is a short story, so does it fall at the top of the B category, or is it a lower A? It's definitely not Mistborn territory. Let's leave it there for now. I feel safe with it being there. Again, short story, not as much to, not enough space to expand, but I love this introduction to this character. Still set in a world that is quite familiar with us, in a world and a magic system that we are already somewhat familiar with, and she shows up in later Stormlight novels. We're gonna leave her there for now. Edge Dancer, top of the B category. The Way of Kings begins the next set of novels, which there's only 3 out so far. Sanderson has finished, I think he's on maybe the 3rd or 4th draft now of the 4th novel in this series. This is his epic fantasy series in the Cosmere, and it's called the Stormlight Archives. It might have been my introduction into epic fantasy. I've read tons of fantasy. I don't know if I've ever done anything of this nature and of this scope until The Way of Kings. So, with that, there were some limitations, some frustrations. It was difficult because there are some pages that are just, oh my goodness, you just can't turn fast enough, and so much is happening, and wow. But then there's some that you just kind of want to like close your eyes and take a nap because you're building out the world, or it's political intrigue, which is not always my favorite, or whatever is happening. However, the story is epic, and I've read it twice now. And the characters are so good. This series so far is his best character work. I think maybe in any of his catalog, and maybe in any of fantasy literature so far. The Way of Kings is so good, but for me, where does it fall? I'm going to say it's in the top 2. Is it in S or is it in A? Where does it fall compared? It is better literature than Mistborn. I like the okay, it's better than Mistborn. Woo, I don't know if I've ever said that. It's better than The Final Empire, The Way of Kings. We've got characters like Kaladin, and we've got characters like Dalinar. We've got characters like Adolin and Shallan. We've got some of the best character work here and epic stories that are happening. We've got Bridge 4. Oh my gosh. Is there a tier that is higher than S as I'm talking about it? I'm falling in love all over again. You know what? It's better. It's better. It's better. It's in A. I didn't quite put it in S, meaning I think that The Well of Ascension is a standalone. Do I? What do I think here? Okay. Well, Way of Kings. There it is. There it is. I'm going to leave it. I'm putting it back there. Maybe it... Ooh, I'm going to leave it there. Let's move on, and I'll finalize these things at the end. Don't need to overthink it. Let's move to the second book in the series, which is Words of Radiance, which is just even better. It's even better than what he began here. The characters evolve, the story evolves, the magic system more filled out, more robust, more reveals, more epicness. This is probably, in my opinion, the magnum opus of the whole Cosmere. Is it better than Well of Ascension? I'm going to say yes. Oh, I don't know. Can I do this? This is too hard. Why did I get involved in this in the first place? Like, I'm even reminding myself right now, as I was reading this the first time, I was taking down notes because one of my friends didn't know that I was yet reading this. And as I was reading, I was taking down notes because I was going to send it when I was halfway, all of these freak out moments that I had to just show him that I had been reading it. And I did that. But by halfway, I had already had, I don't know, some 30 pieces of notes detailing some of my most freak out moments. And I'm not going to share any of them with you because they would all be spoilers. Words of Radiance is a work of art. Is it my favorite in the Cosmere so far? Yes. No. Yes. No. We're going to leave it here for right now. We'll come back to it. Yes. And we will see if it stays there. Let's go to the third and final so far in the Stormlight Archive. That is Oathbringer most recently. And for me, I'm sorry to say it was a letdown. It's not bad. It's great. But Sanderson did things that I'm like, what and why and how and who and when. There are some other things that were epic in nature because Sanderson is brilliant. This series, I think, is going to be like, what, 8, 9, 10 books? And so there's still a long, long way to go. He wants this to be like his work of art that he's remembered for forever. And he will be because he's still got a long time to write. And he writes like a machine. Oathbringer does some great things. It does some not so great things. It is my least favorite so far of the 3 that have come out in the Stormlight Archive. So is it A? I think it's B territory. It's definitely better than Shadows of Self. Is it? Yeah, it is. It is. But and it's the top of the B category for now. Oathbringer is good, still not as good as Final Empire. Is this where it belongs? That's where it belongs for now. A lot of good things happen here. We'll circle back around at the end to make sure I placed it correctly. And then finally for now is a book called Elantris. I'm leaving, or Elantris, excuse me, that was very country. I'm leaving Warbreaker down there, have not yet read it, going to do that soon. Again, no reason why I haven't yet. Elantris, I am still reading. Haven't fully finished this book. It has been a difficult one for me to get through. It is, I believe, one of his earliest books that he wrote. In fact, it was his first kind of like debut novel and first entry into the Cosmere, and you can tell. It's still good. He's still developing worlds and characters and magic systems that Sanderson fans know and love him for, but you can tell that it's his first. I haven't been able to get through it. I've tried it before and I've set it down twice. This time I'm going to make it through. I'm reading, I'm forcing myself to do it. I like some of it, I don't like some of it. A lot of it's so slow. There's a lot of religion and politics that happen here that is not fascinating for me. I like the battle and magic system and character exploration, and I know some of those happen in politics and religion discussions, but for now, I'm going to put this down at the lowest just because I haven't been able to successfully get through it yet. So let me go through here. It's actually pretty evenly distributed. I don't know how fair this is. Let me give it one more look over and we'll see if I've laid them out correctly. So looking over it again, I think it's relatively fair. My only consideration here is Final Empire that low for me? And I know that's not low, but it's below Hero of Ages, and I said the series gets better, but does it? Like, it starts strong, and then Way of Kings. I think I'm just gonna leave it. I don't know. Hold on. Maybe I need to pray. Harmony, guide me. I'm going to move it here. That's what I'm done. I'm done. Do I like Wave King? Yeah, I'm done. And the reason why I did that is this. Hero of Ages ends perfectly, starts great, but it is it's slow. And Mistborn is just great. I love Final Empire to start with. The rest is how we're going to leave it. So again, in the S tier at the top, I've got Words of Radiance. I think it is a beautiful work of art, followed by the second book in the Mistborn era, one series, Will of Ascension. And then in the A category, we've got Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. I don't know why I said his name. And then we've got Final Empire, followed by Hero of Ages. Yeah, and then starting off the B category, the strongest, we've got Oathbringer, followed by Edge Dancer, and then Shadows of Self. the second in the second era of Mistborn. Then we've got Alloy of Law in the C category, followed by Secret History, which I still enjoy, but it is a short story that doesn't add much. And then D category, we've got Bands of Mourning, and then Elantris at the bottom. Warbreaker, again, not categorized. White Sands and a few other short stories are not in here, but that is where we are going to leave it for now. Again, tell me what I got wrong, what I got right, what you think of all of this. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. And once again, thank you for watching this video, for clicking like, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Dragon Army by clicking that button and the bell notification. Leave some comments down below. Would love to dialogue with you there. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.